Hi, welcome to 15 Minute Story. This is episode number 6, and I'm here today with two people that I admire a ton. I'm with Carter Bramlett and Hannah Beck, and they are recently engaged. And they're going to talk about just their walk with Jesus and how dating each other has helped each other get closer to Jesus, and now, I guess, being engaged, and what all that looks like, and how they follow Jesus through it. I'm super excited to hear from them, because it's such a topic that I feel like a lot of people our age especially care about right now, and being at Harding, such a big deal, and it's such an easy thing to mess up, but it's such an awesome, fulfilling thing when it's done right. And they are two people that I just think have done it really right. So I'm going to have my first question for them is, really, how did this all start? Because they grew up in the same town and have also come to Harding together. So how did this all start?
Okay, well, we didn't know each other growing up at all. Never met until, so she's a senior and I am a junior. And she actually interviewed and got the job as the youth intern for my youth group for the summer after I graduated high school. So that was how we met, and we clicked pretty easily. We seemed to get along well, and I would say that through that summer we became really close friends, and I would say that a lot of the closeness that we achieved with one another through that summer specifically was just because we were a part of so many spiritual events. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you're spiritually open with somebody, you're just naturally going to grow closer to them. And so at the end of the summer, after she was done being the intern, I asked her out on a date. Hey. And we went on our first date, and it seemed so easy because we already knew each other so well. It was very natural. It wasn't awkward. We just kind of got to hang out again, except this time it was like we were pursuing more than a friendship. So
that's cool. That's awesome. I think that story's funny every time. Just the audacity to ask the youth intern out. I love that. I love it. I love it.
It's very bold.
It took a lot to not do it during the summer, but I knew that would be looked down upon.
Were you like kind of expecting it or thrown off a little?
No, I wasn't surprised.
Okay.
I mean, we were like, we just clicked super easily, and so we were really close friends. So it was kind of like probably people in general weren't super surprised. I mean, they were surprised, but like it also made sense. Just and it made sense to me, even though I was like, I can't believe this is gonna happen, but it just felt very right.
Yeah,
so.
That's awesome. So second question is, how do you think that each of y'all and together you guys have grown in your relationship with Jesus?
Okay, so I think that something we've talked about before is that through and because of our relationship, I've had a reason, a more desirable reason to be the kind of man that God wants me to be. I've told her somewhat recently that I feel like if I had come into college not in a relationship with her, and if the past 2.5 years of my life weren't spent dating her, I think I still would have grown. I still would have changed because of college and a lot of changes in my life in general. But I don't think I would have grown as much as a Christian man. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I've achieved that perfectly. But I think that having her in my life makes me feel driven to be like, well, of course, I need to be the kind of man that she needs. And through time and growth, I have discovered that the kind of man that she needs is the kind of man that God demands that I be. And so in my pursuit to be the best I can be for her, really what I'm doing is pursuing to be the best I can be in God's eyes as well. Yeah. So I would say that as an individual is how I have grown through our relationship.
Yeah. I think for me, I mean, first, kind of same thing, but being a Christian woman, but also learning about selflessness and like learning to be able to fully love someone. And in my other relationships, just like friendships and everyone else that I meet, it's easy to love them well, but not like fully love them all of the time. Like if they're getting on my nerves, then I can be like, okay, I'm not gonna hang out with you anymore. And I think that I did that a lot. But since dating Carter, like I mean, I guess I can be like, I don't want to be around you if you're getting on my nerves.
I get on your nerves
but that's not really like how our relationship is going to be successful. And so learning to like be able to put his needs before mine, or just see things differently because I'm loving him more sacrificially than I've ever loved anyone before. And so I think it's shown me like in all of my relationships how to love people like God has called me to love them, rather than just like what's convenient for me.
Dang. That's a good lesson to learn.
Still learning it.
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot.
I think we'll be learning that for the rest of
Yeah.
our lives. That's awesome. So, obviously, in 2.5 years, right, there's been a lot of personal struggles because not everything's perfect, obviously, because we're people. But how have you guys helped each other grow through your struggles individually? Like, how have you helped Carter and how have you helped Hannah grow through their struggles?
You want to go first?
Sure. Okay. So, I think for me, Carter has just been very much like not always what I want from someone helping me, but what I need. So, like, it's easy for me to, if things are not going right or something, to just get really down in the dumps about it and just kind of let it take over everything. And something that Carter, that's not Carter at all. Like, I mean, it's a pretty happy-go-lucky person. And so, so one big thing is that, like, he doesn't let me stay there. But I think that not just with that struggle, but with all of my struggles, he's able to see, like, okay, this is why you're struggling with this, and I accept that, but I'm not going to leave you there.
Yeah.
And so, I just think that he's very good at kind of, like, I guess loving me where I'm at, but not being okay with me staying there. And so, like, pulling me and pushing me to be who God created me to be, and not just, like, who I think I should be. Because I think that God created me to be a lot more than what I think I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And I think Carter is better at seeing that a lot of times than I am. And so he is always does it in a loving way, but also in a very, like, I don't know, in a way that I receive well, but it's very, he just pushes me a lot and doesn't really take no for an answer, and is always pushing me to be who I should be.
Dang, that's awesome.
So I guess I've got a couple things. First of all, for me as an individual, as far as how she's helped me through my struggles, so in the same way that she needs someone to be accepting of where she's at and understanding of why she is struggling with what she's struggling, more often than not, I need someone that is like, okay, Carter, you're wrong right now, and you're messing up, and you need to fix it. I need someone that's straightforward. A quick and easy example is a lot of times, as much as I want to be around other people, I have trouble listening, and anyone that watches this that knows me is going to be like, oh, yeah, probably does. But I am very much one eye on who's talking to me and one on everything else that's going on in a room, which is probably good that we're in a place where no one else is here, so I can focus. But I'm caught up in other people's conversations, and so she's good about this, and I have other friends that are as well, but she's good about being like, okay, Carter, you're very obviously not listening to me. You need to stop and come back, hone in. And so that's just one way where I need someone who's going to tell me that I'm in the wrong, tell me why it's wrong, and then tell me to fix it. I'm not always immediately receptive of that. Sometimes I will get defensive, but at the same time, it doesn't take long for me to realize she's correct and I need to change. But I will also say that, and we've both hit on this somewhat through answering this, but we have, through getting to know one another really well, we have begun to be more familiar with why we struggle with what we struggle with. So, like, I know why Hannah struggles with certain things, and she knows why I struggle with certain things. And knowing the reasons behind that allows us to kind of combat those reasons a little bit more so. And I won't get into the details of all of our deepest, darkest struggles, but I think that knowing the details behind that, knowing the reasoning, has helped us tremendously.
Like the root of those struggles.
That's awesome. Like, selflessly getting to know each other to understand each other. Is that what y'all are saying?
Yeah.
That's
Sure.
awesome. And then, how do you? I just read it off. How do you stay focused on Jesus throughout dating? Because 2.5 years, I'm sure there's been times where one person's down here and they're walking, one person's up here, and then I'm sure that goes back and forth. But how do you guys stay focused individually and together on the pursuit of Christ rather than on the pursuit of your own gain or the other person's gain or what feels best?
Well, first and foremost, that takes effort, and I think it takes more effort than we thought it would. I think that when we were in the youth group, and so we were always just like at these spiritual events, very focused on Christ. But then when it was just us in our daily lives, trying to be in a relationship with one another and also with God, it took a lot more effort for us to do that than I would have hoped. And I would say that we've gotten better. We're far from being perfect, obviously. But since you ask, I guess I will bring up the fact that last year, which is crazy that we're getting married this summer, but last year, at the end of the spring semester of school, summer is starting, we had just a very serious talk where we realized, excuse me, that we weren't on the same page in our relationship. She, just to sum it up, she was very ready to settle down and be like, we need to talk about marriage, we need to... It was kind of a point that we reached where it was like, is this going to last or is it not? Because if it is, then we need to start talking about our future together. And if it's not going to last, then we need to end it now. And that freaked me out. I didn't feel ready to have that conversation, and so we were like, we've got to take a break. And so I think the timing of that break couldn't have been any more perfect because I was about to work at Camp Dakota. Some people know what that is. And I was going to be out there for about 4 weeks, and she was going to spend 4 weeks in Africa. And so we weren't going to be talking very much at all. And it really allowed us as individuals to focus on our relationships with God. And that was the most tremendous. I think I grew and just changed more in those 4 weeks than I have in much longer spans of my life outside of that. Just to be able to focus on me and who God wants me to be other than who I need to be for her, which I'll hand it off to you now since you can talk about that as well.
Yeah, I remember in that conversation we had where we were like, not technically breaking up, but kind of. Carter, like really, really close.
Was that
there.
scary like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, it was,
Not a good feeling.
It wasn't fun.
Not a good feeling.
I wouldn't expect it to be.
No, not a good time. But I remember Carter saying something to me along the lines of, like, I'm not going to be able to fully accept love until I can learn to love myself. And, like, that's what I needed. Which sounds harsh, but it was, like, the perfect thing to say. And that was really hard to hear, but it was so good. And that was going into my trip to Uganda, that was kind of my mindset, was like, okay, this is my time to figure out, like, who has God made me to be? And, like, what is his plan for me? Is his plan for us to be together? And, like, I need to learn to love who he created me to be. And so that was just a very cool thing for me because I realized, like, over our relationship, I had tried to make myself into who I thought Carter wanted me to be and not who God made me to be. And that wasn't Carter's fault at all. That was just, like, what I had in my head is, like, this is who I'm supposed to be the perfect girlfriend or anything like that. And so, but along with that came so much insecurity and so many other struggles that led to a lot of struggles in our relationship just because I couldn't be happy with who I was because I knew it wasn't, like, who I was made to be. And so I spent that time in Uganda focusing on, like, all right, God created me to be a strong, godly woman, and, like, how can I learn to love who that woman is, and how can I be who that is, so I can, if we're meant to be together, I can be that woman in a relationship, and if we're not, then okay, like, I'll be that woman by myself, and that's going to be okay. And I think, so that was a time that I didn't realize before, because I thought, like, we were involved at church, we were doing all of, like, the right things, we were just doing good stuff all the time, but we weren't really focused on growing closer to Christ. It was more like, let's just do good things. Let's be involved in good things. And kind of substituting that for a relationship with God. And so then letting our relationship kind of become the most important thing in our relationship and not God. But it was easy to not see that because we were doing good stuff. And so so in that month, I learned so much about who God is and who I am in him. And so then coming back and being able to say, like, okay, this is who God made me to be. And if we can be, and seeing like who God made Carter to be, and if we can be those people in a relationship, then awesome. That's going to be incredible. But if we can't, then we don't need to be together. And I think that was the most important thing for us, because before that I felt like I can't not be in a relationship with Carter. Like, that's who I am. I put my identity in our relationship instead of in God. And so I think, I don't know, like if you would say the same thing for you, but for me, that month was figuring out, like, okay, I am not, like, my identity does not rest in the fact that I'm Carter's girlfriend. My identity is in the fact that I am a child of God, and like I get to be Carter's girlfriend also, but like that's not who I am. That's just a cool little like add-on on the side, and if that's affecting my identity, then like that's not something that I need to be a part of. So I think for me, just finding my identity in God was a huge thing, and has made our relationship so much better. Just because then we were able to come back and like know who we were and what we wanted for our relationship, and have direction for the first time, instead of just like saying, yeah, we're a good Christian couple, but like now I think I guess I would say like we have more of a mission and goal for our relationship instead of just being a Christian couple.
Yeah, so that's so awesome and so wise. And we're running short on time, but are you, how old are you guys? Like exactly, probably 20, 21 range?
21.
About 21.
21, and you're getting married this summer, which on paper sounds crazy, but these people, like, relationships, people will just tell you how perfect you are sometimes, and it's just awesome how honest y'all have been. So what is a final thought to leave people with, just any advice or just anything about Jesus you just want to leave out there as people watch this?
I have something to say, but I will give the credit to her because she's the one that said it. She said this earlier today, but she told me that we were just talking about our relationship, kind of getting ready for this, I guess, and she said that something that we had to learn was that in order to fill each other up through our relationship like we wanted to, we had to fill ourselves with God first, which that should apply to any relationship and to anyone, whether it's a friendship or something romantic. But learning how to be full of God first, and then through us, God would fill the other. And learning that aspect of having a relationship has benefited us tremendously. And I would say that since that break, our relationship has been awesome. It has been so much better. We struggled tremendously in certain times before that, and since the break that we took, it has been awesome, way better.
That's awesome. And this is just so much more reason to get to know these people, because they are awesome and have been such a blessing to my life, especially just in the past probably 6 months as I've gotten closer to Carter and also gotten to know Hannah more. Ask them questions, get to know them, please. I wish I could talk to them for way longer, but this is 15-minute story. Thank y'all so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate your time. Done.
Appreciate it, Braden.